Right. We're going to move on. Jessica, hey, look her up when you come into the journalism class. This is the new talent at Fullerton College. We're here at 90.1 KBPK. Thank you, Jessica.
Sure.
Welcome back to 90.1 KBPK. We're out here. Hey, this is a day to get to know the departments here at Fullerton College and all the instructors and everything else. And we just talked about constructing a story. And that's what you do with words and paper and everything else. And this next gentleman that's with me right now brings it really to home. Torrey Pines High School for many years had a little black box, which was a theater. There's an old woman. I mean, she's an old, crusty lady down at Torrey Pines. It's my sister, so I can say that. Theater person, just got a brand new theater. They built it. She was there on the design, the construction. The construction people brought her in. The designer people brought her in, and she sat down with them. Has a beautiful place. You need to realize that comes from an idea. The gentleman sitting next to me is one of those individuals that I would say to, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
This is Alan Ray. I'm the department chair for the Fullerton College Architectural Division.
And the reason I got Alan here with me is because, Alan, I am somebody, I'm impressed with my sister's theater. I saw the drawings. She helped design it. She sat down with designers like you and said, I wanted this and that. They would walk her through while they were building it. For all of us who think we are artists, the man next to me is a true artist for the simple reason he creates working art. That's a difference from the painting that we look at and say that's beautiful compared to the working art that we walk through and realize we can live in it, we can work in it, we can relax in it, and this is what an architect does. They are that point of view, and there's nothing like seeing a man like you or a woman that I come up and I scribble something on a piece of paper and say, that's what I want. And then you're the individual that sits down and maps out the entire working for me and gives me the dream that I'm looking for.
You must be doing that over some meal somewhere, because we usually get a napkin out, and that's where our scribbles start.
That's it. That's it. Now your background in the world of architecture.
I've been in the industry about 35 years. I graduated from Cal Poly back in the 80s. Wow, making myself feeling really old.
You're with me, so you're okay.
But in the 80s, and then I worked in some various offices. I've done a lot of work in the medical field and in a lot of custom residential, some commercial work, and then opened up my own practice in about 1991. It's in the city of Brea, so I've been doing that ever since. And joined here at Fullerton College in the fall of 2016 and teaching the courses here, which has been a tremendous pleasure for me to do that. I really enjoyed being here. We got a great day here. Boy, the sun is out. Crowds are thick. I love it.
Yeah, it's absolutely great. This is the thing when we talk about architecture. Here we're here at Fullerton College. Of course, I'm on Proposition J. We've got $600 million. We've already worked at our sister school, Cypress, to create their new STEM building. We're going to be doing some of the work here. But when we talk about architecture, I hate to bring it up, that nasty word of money and regulations always gets thrown in here. But when we look at designs here in Southern California, are we going to the world of modernism? Are we going to the world of restoration, where we go back to old school? Where is architecture going in Southern California?
It's something we talk about quite a bit in our courses, that we say, in certain countries like Italy, you have a certain vernacular, certain style with tile roofs, or, you look at a lot of the architecture in Southern California is Spanish Mission style, including here on our own campus. But, if you start looking, in the back alleys and the side streets, there's every style you can find here in Southern California. We have a project that we do. We put a little project called the Book of Architecture, and I put on there 50 items on the list, and I send the students out into the cities and neighborhoods and take photographs of these items, and they come back and they say, that was the best project I've ever done. I never realized all this stuff is around us. So, when you ask the question, what style are we going into, it's kind of it's a modernist style that we're doing here in Southern California, but it's more cultural too, because we've been noticing a lot of mosques being built, a lot of Hindu temples we've noticed around. They built a large Hindu temple out in Chino Hills that we were looking at. My professor and I were looking at yesterday, and just a beautiful building out there. We've got lots of different church buildings going up, school buildings, school additions everywhere that are in a modernist style. It's really a collection of everything. And I think that's what makes Southern California so wonderful, is that we can see any style of anywhere in any neighborhood and really have appreciation for, the historical value behind a lot of the buildings. So I don't think we can really notice one particular style. It's like they're all going at the same time.
Now I'm going to bring in a little of my theater background here, because when Todd Glenn taught here in the theater program, he believed you should be a Renaissance person. So I'm looking at architecture almost from the same perspective. I mean, if I'm going to build, should I be that student that has studied electrical? Should I understand the world of plumbing, carpet laying, carpentry, painting, and everything? I mean, more people look at architecture as just somebody that looks at a drawing and says, yeah, I'll get it built. So I need to know, should an architectural person be that Renaissance person, or who should they be?
I think they should be the Renaissance person. There was a book done way back, a few millennials ago by Vesuvius. And Vesuvius wrote in there, he was writing a treatise to the emperor at the time. And he said the architect should be, know astronomy and music and geometry and, construction and all these sort of things. So I think a Renaissance man should be a variety of knowledges and styles and cultures and know how the planets work and how the astronomy works and how buildings go together and how the plumbing systems. I think they should know all those things. I think, and some architects should be musicians and painters, and I think it really helps their imagination when they have a lot of outside, cultural influences that I think will also add to their knowledge and their creativity. So yeah, I think architects should be Renaissance men.
One of the things that I was talking to the journalists department about is we look at this world of maybe job-wise shrinkage, and I look at architectures, and you talked about your company, and I know with Proposition J we deal with all the major companies, but I'm a young guy that wants to be an architect, and I want to be my own person in my design. Where does that world stand for that youngster that comes through your program but says to you, well, yeah, it's great, I could work for you, but I want to build my own stuff? Is that world out there in this very difficult, competitive world for the young guy that comes to you as a student?
It is there. I think it has a lot to do with their connections with who they know and who they associate with. I've known some students before where they said, I'd like to draw and design a home addition because my uncle wants to add on to his house. Those are great connections, because if the uncle has the financial part of it to be able to pay for the construction of it, then the student will get some learning experience with that, and then they have someone that's assisting them with the cost of the construction. So I think those avenues are available. Just have to look out for them. I think the students should be able to just keep their eyes open on any avenue that they can see and associate people. Sometimes those associations are fellow church members that want to add onto their homes, or they might be somebody that they're in a bowling league or in Little League baseball, and you're sitting there in the bleachers with the friends, and they say, hey, I'm thinking about doing a clubhouse, or I'm doing a cabin in the mountains or something. And those are all the connections that lead to further work, and that's kind of where I started as well. I had a friend of mine that They wanted to do a couple of remodels on some homes, and then he came back to me again. He says, "Hey, I got another one for you. Interested?" Well, of course, we're always interested.
Absolutely, money, money.
We never want to turn anything away, and at one point, it really wasn't the money that was most important to me. It was more of the connection and the repeat client. That was really important to me because the money will be there. It wasn't as important, but by them coming back to me again and again and say, "Hey, I got another project for you," then you've built yourself a client base, and if they continue to come back to you again, then you got something established. And so I think even for a student graduating out of here through our program, or even going on to a university as they transfer, which we always encourage them to do that too, there's always those opportunities. I think they should look for those opportunities.
So let me ask you about the program, because I've taken almost every class on this campus, but I've never taken architecture. I took theater design and things in the old days here. So what does the program, is it a certificate program or a certificate and or transfer program? What classes do you offer in the world of architecture?
We have a few certificates. We have a certificate in architectural technology. We have one in CAD technology. The CAD technology, if you take a AutoCAD course, and we offer 2 Revit courses, beginning and advanced, you can get what we call a mini certificate. And we've had some employers sending their staff over here to get further training, because Revit seems to be kind of the big wave of 3-dimensional, smart design, that sort of thing. So they're sending them over here because some of their offices are transitioning over to this 3-dimensional software called Revit. So we get a lot coming in to get training in our CAD program that way. So if they don't really want to go in and get the 2-year certificate, so to speak, through our division, they can get a mini certificate, take these 3 courses, and get a certificate in CAD technology. The other part is we have a lot of students coming in that are wanting to go on to a university level, and we have various universities that we introduce them to. They even come in here and they give presentations to them. Cal Poly Pomona, New School of Architecture in San Diego, Woodbury in Burbank, SciArc in Los Angeles, USC. We're trying to get USC to allow us to come in and do tours. All of them, they allow us to do tours of their places. So we do introduce our students to these universities. So this is the steps you can take, and then you can go through our transfer center and fill out all the documentation, and then transfer to these universities. We've been very successful in getting a lot of students transferred into universities, and we hear them continuing on and going through the university programs and graduating. So we're always excited about hearing where they've gone. For here, if they want to go through get their AA degree, we always encourage them to get that, because they can always fall back on that. Say they went through all of our program, and then they got out in the industry, and then their family life changed in something different, and they had to move and whatever. They can always fall back on their AA degree that they received here at Fullerton College as a starting point, and we always encourage them, whatever you do, finish your degree, finish all your courses. At least you'll have that if you change your career profession. You can always come back to architecture. It's funny, we have people calling and say, "Well, I got a bachelor's degree in like physics and biology. Can I be an architect?" "Oh, sure. You can take a few courses and then transfer and become you can get a master's degree in architecture at any one of these universities, and you then can become an architect if you want to be. So there's always avenues, and architecture seems to always be that romantic program that people always seem to identify with, and I think that's what's so exciting about it.
So if you're that kid that started with Lincoln Logs and you built that little cabin, or maybe now you're in the Lego world, and you're that person that designs and says, "Look at the castle I built," and part of that fantasy is carried with you into your late teens, early 20s, and you decide, I could do this if I had the opportunity. The man in the department is sitting next to me right now. Come over to Fullerton College. If this is a field that you want to pursue, look at the companies out there like what Disneyland is building all over the world. Yeah, they need people that can design. They got to take that creative thought from the old guy here, put it on paper, but somebody's got to know how to build it. It's got to meet all the rules. It's got to be safe. The gentleman to my left is the gentleman that teaches you how to do that. And yeah, someday you might be able to walk down that walkway with your grandchild and say, see that beautiful chapel right over there? Grandfather built that 10 years ago. If you want to start any place, start here at Fullerton College. I'm excited. If I could draw, I would build. If he could do anything, nah, forget Corey Nailin. He can't build a thing. I've been with him. Thank you so
We have a
very
class
much.
for you,
Oh,
architecture
Corey.
drawing. We could
There's a
have you come
class
in.
for us.
There's no age limit on anything we got here. Anybody is able to join.
Whoa, once again, the old guy gets attacked at Fullerton College. And,
It's
once
a
again,
pleasure
get your
being
name
here.
again before
Alan Ray. It's
Alan
a pleasure
Ray, thank
being
you.
here.
Alan Ray, architecture. Corey, thanks for bringing Alan over. This was a great conversation. Alan, I hope the class is filled to capacity, and I'd love to stop by someday just to see the drawings if Corey and I could stop on by.
We do have at the end of the semester called Semester Showcase. It's on December the 10th.
Okay.
And at the end of the semester, all the students in all the courses, they pin up all their work for the whole semester, and we just have a big show and tell thing, and all the families and friends are invited. Everybody can come in and walk through the whole program and just see what they've done for the whole semester. So December the 10th is our showcase.
So make sure, Corey, we both have our walkers on that day so that we can walk through there. Once again, good luck, and thank you very much.
It's a pleasure being here.
This is the
Thank you
guy.
so much.
Oh, our pleasure. We're going to continue as the day goes on here at 90.1 KBPK with a few more interviews as we've heard about journalism, architecture. I got the guys that drive cars sitting behind me someplace here. I got automotive right behind me. So if you need a tune-up, come on down to Fullerton College because hey, guys, do you still do that? Yeah. They do. Architecture, you got a house, you got a car. We have to get food services over here. We'll just move in, Corey.
Well, actually, you need to bring them on so I can get a price quote on that.
Okay. Once again, Alan, thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Welcome back to 90.1 KBPK. We're out here celebrating Fullerton College. That's the way I look at it. Semester's getting ready to go. And for all the students that come here, one of the biggest things that they do is everybody signs up for a class. Everybody says, yeah, parking's horrible. I don't know how to get there. I'd love to go to class early, but I can't get out of bed. I've got nothing to eat. I've got no place to stay. It's the same dilemma as if you're in kindergarten all the way up for being that senior in college. And you have to have programs on college campuses that understand besides feeding somebody through academia, you have to actually give them nutrition so they understand academia. Kelly Salazar is here. She's the lady who is head of health services here at Fullerton College. And Kelly, you have, I would say, the mammoth task here at Fullerton College, because you could pick and choose the different departments, but all students have certain needs, physical needs, mental needs besides academia, and you're the program they come to. So tell me a little about the program, the services that you offer, and then we'll really get into the meat of things, that what you do.
Okay, yeah. Health services is available for any student that's enrolled in classes. They pay a $19 health fee. That health fee covers most everything within our center. So I kind of break it down to three basic resources, which is our clinical services. So we have nurse practitioners available, and we kind of function like a mini doctor's office. And then we have mental health providers available for students to talk to if they're stressed or having issues, whether it's at school or home. They're available, and that can be an expensive thing outside of campus, and that's covered in that $19 health fee. And then we also have health education, and that's what I oversee. Is we have peer health educators, which are students on campus who we bring in and train to help spread the word about health services and health topics. And we also do events throughout the semester. So we do things like lunch and learns, where we provide lunch and opportunities for students to get health information. We have our Great American Smokeout, where we encourage students to quit a bad behavior through our Cold Turkey Challenge. And we also have our Rest and Relaxation, which is the week before finals, and we provide students with nap pods, coloring tables, and opportunities to just de-stress before they reach their finals week. And our services are really aimed towards any student. We aren't considered health insurance, we're considered supplemental to that. So we know that students who have access to health care do better academically, and that's what we want. We want students to take advantage of that $19 health fee and come see us, ask us questions, use our services that we have.
Okay, so I'm a student that comes to you, and like most students, all of us are very leery about when we walk into a doctor's office or anybody else, we get a blood test done. Who knows about it? Who's going to find out? So we know that if I go to my private doctor, the only person that can find out about me is my doctor. He won't even talk to my kids about what's going on with me. I come to your health services, I'm on a general campus.
Yeah. And that's
so you tell me something, who knows on this campus about me?
Yeah, and that's a common misconception because we are on a campus, but we are a licensed medical clinic. So we fall under HIPAA, which is the Health Privacy Act. So anything that's shared within our office is kept within our office. We have electronic medical records, so just like your doctor's office, it's kept within our computer system. We cannot share anything unless you've given us written permission, just like your doctor's office. If a professor called and said, Joanna was in there and said that she wasn't in my class, we'd be like, Joanna who? Because we can't share that information unless Joanna said, can I get a letter to share with my professor, whoever it was. So that is one benefit, that some students may have insurance and like the idea of having extra privacy that's not connected with, say, their parents' insurance or a family member's insurance through our center.
Another question. I'm a young lady that comes to campus here. I'm a single mom. I've got a little 2-year-old. Okay, gee, I can come for service for myself. That's great. But I've now got to go to a doctor outside, a pediatrician that's going to cost me $185 just to get in there. Can I bring my child over to you if I'm a student here?
Unfortunately, we can't. Our services are only covered under that $19 health fee. So only people that are enrolled and have paid that $19 health fee can be seen within our office. We do have referral resources. If someone came in and they had a question, we can refer them out to resources that may be appropriate for them or a family member, because we do know that family member stress can add more stress onto them. So we do have resources to community organizations that may be able to provide resources for a family member or themselves.
Okay, so you're a health group, but I'm a healthy guy. I just only eat once a day because that's all I can afford. Not even
Yeah.
really that.
Uh-huh.
I go to school, I carry my 18 units, and I try to work,
Yeah.
but rent's killing me.
Mm-hmm.
So, can I come over to you guys and ask for any help?
Of course. If you come into our office, we will ask those types of questions. We have a lot of the students we see within our office who may come in for a headache. Typically, we find that they haven't eaten, and that could be part of why they have a headache. So we do have granola bars, and we try to get them instant nutrition at that point because that should help alleviate some of the symptoms. But we also have a food bank on campus, and so the food bank is a great resource for students who need any type of access to food. And as long as you're enrolled in a class, you can access our food bank. Currently, it's open on Tuesdays. There is word of that expanding, but the hours and days have not been said yet. So we're looking probably at 2 days a week next semester, and that food bank is, again, open to any student that wants to take advantage and get food. They encourage you to bring your own bag, and you can fill your bag up with any of the food there. They have fresh vegetables, fruits, boxed foods, things that will last a little bit longer. So those are all available for students. But when a student comes in, our nurses, one of the big things that they do is education, talking to students about how they're feeling, what is going on. The nice thing about our center is we have mental health counselors and we have nurses, so we can kind of cross-connect if students need a resource and maybe it's stress-related that they're really having issues dealing with, and we can refer them to mental health providers. We do have resources to refer them out, like I mentioned. We are considered acute care, so that means any long-term issue we may not have the resources to take advantage of, so we try to refer out. If they have health insurance, we'll kind of try to navigate that with them. If they don't have health insurance, we'll try to navigate different providers that can help them. So even with our mental health counselors, we're not considered long-term. So after a while, the mental health counselor may work with them to try to find some outside provider that could maybe give them a next level of care or continue their level of care.
Now, we know there's certain times of the year, if we're looking at elementary schools and things like that, where people have to get shots. There's the flu season. There might be whooping cough. There might be other things that we're worried about. Your clinic is licensed where we can come to that and get those shots if we need them. And if that's true, do you send out notices via email or something else that'll let everybody know, hey, right now we're giving out flu shots here at Fullerton College?
Yeah, so we do our best to promote. We promote in things like President's Weekly. We have signs. We try to send out mass emails to the campus. Flu shots is something we always offer each year. Typically, flu shots start late September, early October. This year, we'll be starting them in October. We do what is called our drop-in clinic. So on Wednesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 12 and 2 to 4, we offer just drop-in. So students can come in and drop in starting October 2nd, I believe is that Wednesday, to get their flu shot. It's completely free for students. It is a $20 charge for staff and faculty if they'd also like to come in and get that flu shot. It is first come, first serve, so once we run out of flu shots, we unfortunately don't have them anymore for this season, but we typically get around 200 students and faculty staff that come in for our flu shots. So that is important. We also offer tuberculosis testing, so a lot of times students may have to do a volunteer opportunity where they need to be TB tested or screened. We can do that within our center. We do offer Tdap vaccine. All of those they can call and get information on that. But we have basic vaccines. We don't have every vaccine. We are somewhat limited in our supply of some things. But you can call and always ask questions. We also do blood testing. So if a student comes in and they're not feeling well and we think we need to do some testing and send off their blood, we can get results. And we have antibiotics within our office, so we can treat some of those things as well.
When we think about your title, it says Fullerton College Disability Support Services. Most people think disabilities are handicapped individuals, people that may have a learning handicap, a physical handicap, or just some sort of mental handicap in some way or form. So how do you address those that actually come under that hardcore word disability. Can I get a wheelchair from you, a walker from you? What can I get from you?
So disability support services is actually a separate department than us on campus. So I think you're looking, we're
That's your
under
sign, yeah.
we're under that umbrella, which was just logistically put
Okay.
over us. But they are another office on campus that can really help students with resources. But speaking to that, we do, if a student came in and say they hurt their leg outside of campus, we can offer the rental crutches. So if they come in, we can offer them crutches while they're healing and get to class to make that a little bit easier. They just have to come in, give us their student ID, register those crutches, and then bring them back when they're done.
Kelly, I got to ask you, because you've got that service. I don't think that many students know about it. I mean, I was in Proposition J. We now have the busing passes. That was one of the things that we had a loud discussion about that when I was on that committee. And one of my arguments was, that's great you want to do it, but you've got to make sure it gets stuck in the hand of students. Because if you're just saying, oh, we're offering it, 90% of the students are not going to get the bus passes, and they're going to go, well, I didn't know I could get a bus pass, and it's too late. What do you do to get the word out about your services? Because you will still hear students say, oh, I was at Fullerton College, and it was horrible because I had to sleep on the grass. I never had anything to eat. It's almost like you guys don't exist. So how can or how many students know about you, and how do we get the word out about your services?
That's a huge question, and it is difficult. We do a lot within our center to try to get the word out. We have peer health educators, which are paid students through our office, that their job is to spread the word about what we do. They're usually on the quad once to twice a week for a couple hours promoting our services. We try to hit evening students as well as daytime students. We promote on campus the best we can. We do classroom presentations. That's another thing that can be requested via our website. So any professor or club can request with just a fill-in sheet, and we go out and can do a 15-minute presentation about our services. Last year we also created a quick intro video, so we promote that video so that it can be shown in spaces where they may not be able to offer 15 minutes. So we really do try to do a lot to reach students. I think it is very hard with the community college because a lot of times students are on the go. So we hope that through these different avenues of going into classrooms, being on the quad, having our flyers and branding and having them across campus. We also have A-frame boards. We hope that we at least attract and see something. And unfortunately, I think with the nature of health services, a lot of times students may not need us until they need us. And so by also having staff and faculty educated on what we offer so that when they go to that person they trust on campus, that person says, you need to go to the health center, or you need to go to the food bank, so that we can create this culture of helpfulness on campus.
Well, this is the young lady that if you need some sort of help, be it physical, mental, or maybe just need to walk in there and say, I don't know where to go. Go over and see Kelly Salazar. She is there to help you at the health center here at Fullerton College. It is open for your needs, be it just everyday needs, or hey, maybe it's a drastic physical need that you're a little worried about. Don't ignore it. Don't say, I don't care, because I don't care if you're 18 or 180 like me. If there's something wrong with you physically, you need to take care of it. And this young woman sitting next to me is the type of young lady that if they can't give you the service, they will tell you where you need to go for it. Thank you for taking time out.
Thank you so much.
And, you know, we would love to be able to promote you anytime. I've got Ryan and I've got Joseph here. Before you walk away, please make sure you let the two guys know all your information.
Okay.
They would be more than happy to always get a notice out once in a while on 90.1 FM KBPK about your services out there, because former student, they would both love to have the opportunity that if either one of them felt bad, they'd like to know where they could have gone as a student here. They'll be able to help the students today.
Yeah, and that's great. We have so many events we would love to promote this year, so we'll be in touch.
All right, Kelly Salazar, Head of Health Services here at Fullerton College. We're at Fullerton College Day here on 90.1 KBPK.
So once again, we're live here at the 2019 Smart Start here on Fullerton College campus. Inside the quad, I am Ryan Osborne, joined by Mark Pavlovich, Joseph Pavlenko, Corey Nalen, Gabby Nalen. We're all here supporting and promoting 90.1 FM KBPK. And Mark, you've already talked to 3 different heads of departments.
Sure. Well, associated with the
Associated
departments.
with
I had
departments.
journalism here.
Right.
I had architecture here, and then I had health services. That just shows you that I'm old enough that I can talk about all that subject matter. I'm not a modern day educator that only is got a narrowed point of view. That's one of the things. We are going to have journalism come on and discuss if we do a Friday Night Mike show. She'd love to come up. We talked about the 60s, a show that you and I might be doing called Right Guard, Left Guard, which will combine music, politics, social issues, and sports, coming on 90.1. I always call it FM, but 90.1 KBPK. And our journalism instructor here said, I'd love to get on that show. Architecture and I had an absolute ball. We just built a castle for Corey Nalen while we were out here. It's got his face on top of it, and it actually then has Gabby just a little higher because we know she's the queen of the Nalen establishment. So she's up there. And then, of course, because of Joseph, I had to talk to health services because I want Joseph to be around for at least the next 40 to 50 years, not just another 40 to 50 days out here on 90.1. As a matter of fact, health services is sending their information. Corey Nalen's got a couple people that are coming to the table to find out about what we do out here at 90.1 KBPK. And Ryan, you're now on staff here along with Joseph, and as we looked about it, what you're going to discover as we talk about the future podcasts that we're going to have going on, some of the shows that you and I have normally done. We're going to have community college sports on 90.1 with Corey Nalen's 145 class out here. Let's talk about our department.
Sounds good.
The reason we're out here. Peg Berger, who's head of the department, has a wonderful program out here for the radio department. It has a variety of classes out here. I mean, I happen to mention Corey's class, the 145 sports class, but we do have the 235 class, which Peg will be teaching this year.
Well, not to mention, Mark, a lot of people that I've been talking to think that, you have to already have this exceptional amount of radio experience by the time you go into the class. Everybody keeps thinking, well, I'm not experienced. I haven't gone on the air, so I can't take classes. No, there's also the 122 class. It teaches you the basics of board operation, the basics of microphone operation, proper mic techniques, in addition to the basics of news, the basics of being on air. So you have the opportunity, and like the 145 class, which teaches you the basics of sports broadcasting, you have the opportunity to be able to go to KBPK and through the Fullerton College Radio Department and say, I want to learn this. I can take different classes to achieve that goal.
Well, the thing that's interesting, Joseph is over here. Joseph's a graduate from the radio program. Corey Nalen's a graduate of the radio program. Rashawn Haylock, who works for CBS and Fox Sports,
and
came
ESPN.
through the program. Ben Root, who's in Minnesota, came through the radio program. He's one of the top sports announcers in Minnesota. And you can hear that in the background. 2017 South Dakota Sports Broadcaster of the Year, Ben Root, who came through the program. Scott Beck, who has worked for Fox, the Dodgers, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Kings, and the Colorado Avalanche. A graduate from this. Eric Pesolano, Chuck Lasek, Anaheim Duck, high school ice hockey through that. Well, you go ahead and say
Emily Harlan, who works for Fox Sports San Diego and is the in-arena host for the San Diego Gulls.
So Mike Strevel, who's in Arizona. Eric Cohen, who is in Arizona, both who work for the Arizona Cardinals during preseason. They came through the radio program. Let's not forget Freddie, because National Public Radio got spoken about today when I was talking to journalism, and there was a story that came out that had to deal with white supremacists being taught how to be white supremacists, and I thought, wait a minute, did Freddie come out with that story? National Public Radio, our buddy Freddie, who is still on it. You know the answer to that? Did he?
Where's his headset?
Oh, okay. On that, we should have Corey Nayland, who's one of our graduates with the program, coming through that too. As we got Corey Nayland, who teaches
There
the
we go.
145 sports. What do you know the answer to?
Oh, that question you had
And that,
about the supremacy, how white supremacists learn how to be white supremacists.
well, she was telling me too that she was telling me about the program. That's why I tried to get you on the air. She's going to come and talk about racism. Is it as prolific today as it was back in my days, Corey, when you and I've talked about it?
Yes, because that's how it's learned. It's learned through K through 12 in the U.S. That's where it's learned.
Yeah. So these are some of the programs that we have on 90.1 KBPK. Ryan, you came through the program itself. You're now over at the radio department. Joseph's now over there at the radio department as we come through it. So these are all the things that the radio department, which is I call new media. I no longer call it just radio. I like to introduce it because Corey Nayland and I have shot more video for 90.1. You along with us. We have done music programming with video. We have done sports programming with video.
Yep.
And, of course, Peg has her class, which is a news program. She teaches news here for 90.1.
The news
KBPK,
class
the
on
news
Monday
class.
and Wednesday. They end up each semester. They all get a stand-up opportunity where they get a camera. They deliver stand-ups in front of the camera, a max of 2 minutes long, where they're essentially giving out news updates here on campus. So they're updating the community around Fullerton on what's going on here at Fullerton College, whether it be new parking structure plans, whether it be the athletic program and how they're doing, the football team, or like Smart Start, if you have an event during the school year, and the Day of the Dead, which is coming up here in the fall, if you have that type of event, those stand-ups will deliver that news to the community.
Well, wait a minute. If we do Day of the Dead, we can only play music from Mexico.
Correct.
Because that's who's connected with Day of the Dead, because those are things that you learn when you take the multimedia classes here at Fullerton College. And when I basically say that, I'm talking radio when I use multimedia. The classes we've talked about, because we happen to know in all our discussions that we have here at 90.1 FM, we are multicultural and we discuss multi things, and we like getting it right. So next year when you see Day of the Dead and we're out there doing Day of the Dead, we're going to be playing the appropriate music. You're not going to be watching us going, wait a minute, there's Colombian. No, they don't do Day of the Dead. That's right. It's a holiday from Mexico, which is Day of the Dead. And we have the people at our program, be it sports related, politically related, socially related, that can bring that to you here on 90.1 KBPK.
And Mark, I think this goes back to your discussion with the journalism department earlier, in which it was all about what different sensitivity is there. You look at this department as a whole, engineering and technology, which radio is encompassed in that as well. You look at the department as a whole, and you have a lot of instructors here that know or have an extensive knowledge of these type of subjects. You're not going to go up to them and talk to them and say, hey, can you talk to me about this article that you were mentioning that came out this morning? And they'll go, well, I don't know anything about that subject, so I can't talk to you about that.
Well, and let's flip it, because our radio department and our instructors that are in our radio department are multifaceted. These are not young men and young women that come through the program and go, I know radio, but I can't talk about anything. Yeah, if you're somebody who loves to talk. We had Greg Schultz, the president of our college, come over with his son, who was excited about joining the program, because I basically looked at him and said, hey, there's no right or wrong. We like expressing opinions. Corey Nayland has elevated that to the highest standard in the 145 class, that he lets people speak their mind. Does that mean we agree with each other? No, but we have learned from each other here at 90.1 KBPK, and we have professionals that have worked in the industry throughout the years in this program. So it's not just education, academia radio. It's the real deal, baby. I mean, you come out here, you better know what you're doing on 90.1 KBPK, and that's what we teach on our radio station.
Mark, we've already talked about the different people who've come through the sports program, and then also Freddie, who has gone on to National Public Radio. But you look at the plaque that we have in KBPK, that Wall of Honor, it's not just people who just sat on their behinds and decided, you know what, I'm just going to get my certificate and then I'll move on to English and then I'll move on to history. No, those are people who became the industry standard, who set the industry standard, had a career outside of KBPK, and then got to be honored by that KBPK Wall of Fame.
Well, and the thing that you need to realize, too, is you've gone through the program. You set your resumes out. I already mentioned a bunch of people that are working in the industry that we talk. I'm going to get a little love to the sports group because you have an old man sitting to your left, Corey Nalen, looks a little like Morgan Freeman, a little old guy over there. And then there's me on your right who could probably play God if they'd let me because I'm old enough to do that. And we teach our class as a vocational class. We're not spurning academia, but Corey and I are the type of guys that say, go out and get a job. Much like automotive is that vocational behind us that we look at doing that thing. And Ryan, you cannot help but get excited for the individuals that go out there, like I've named the 9 sports people that have gone out there and gotten jobs. That's what it's about, and that's what we do. We try to have the most modern equipment. We use what everybody uses at ESPN. Hate to say other things. ABC, NBC, CBS, KTLA. We use the same equipment they do. So when you take the class from us, it's not like you're walking into a world of inequity or antiques where you say, wait a minute, you hand crank this? No, we use modern day equipment, and we have a staff that can teach you how to use that modern day equipment, much like automotive's got the modern day equipment on their side so that you as that new mechanic can learn old school and new school when you go to the automotive department.
Well, Mark, when you talk about the equipment that KBPK uses, it's not just us talking and saying, oh, yeah, we use the latest equipment, but in reality it's something else or it emulates the equipment. No, it actually is. When you talk about the drones, they say, yeah, we use drones. The first thing that pops into your head isn't the little miniature one that you can get at 7-Eleven. It's the actual drones, professional drones that have cameras on them that you can use. That's what they use. It's the same with KBPK. We don't just use, oh, we're using a patchwork over here. We're doing something that's maybe 20 to 30 years behind. No, we have a Comrex that we use for live stuff. We have OBS Studio. We have different programs that we use that are, like you say, up to date. If you look at those big programs that you talk about with the 4-letter station, ESPN, they use Comrexes. That's the same equipment that KBPK and those classes use. So it's not like we're 20 to 30 years behind. We're right up to date with industry.
Yeah, and the thing that's fun is we go out and do things. I mean, I got Corey sitting over to my left, and Corey and I will tease as we have a Japanese beetle walking through. So that's why we are multicultural. You notice how the Japanese beetle came over there to fly on the camera here at 90.1 KBPK. That shows you. But when I brought up Corey, we do things out here, Corey. I mean, that's the one thing that we do here. We don't talk about and say to kids, go out and do stuff. We offer the opportunity to go out and do football, volleyball, softball, basketball, and we expect you to do it. We don't just offer it. We expect you. If you want to be in the industry, you better do, not just talk about it.
Yes.
Thank you. And that's your typical response you're going to get from Corey Nalen the entire semester here at 90.1 KBPK. Ryan, I'm going to get out of the way for you in a second. We're going to get a couple more people. I know Jay said he's going to come over and visit you. We got automotive sitting behind us, too, and they've been listening to me jammer all day long. Mr. Miranda's been so kind. I sat and talked with him earlier. You ought to get one of these guys on because
Indeed.
You're looking for a car. He needs to know how to fix his car because they constantly blow up. So one of you gentlemen need to come on the air with Ryan Osborne and at least teach him how to drive a car because I don't think he knows what he's doing. I'm going to be back with a little more here on 90.1 KBPK. But, Ryan, maybe you ought to grab somebody from automotive and learn what a stick shift is.
Would you like to join us, Mr. Miranda?
Okay. Now you have a question about automotive? Not
Well,
yet.
we're back here on 90.1 KBPK live at the 2019 Fullerton College Smart Start. I'm Ryan Osborne, joined by Mr. Miranda. And Mr. Miranda, automotive is out here to show what you can do as a program. So let's start with the program as a whole. For automotive, a lot of people immediately think, oh, okay, so you're just fixing every single aspect of a car, or you need to know every single aspect of a car. What is it specifically that automotive specializes here at Fullerton College?
We specialize in the powertrain, and we work on brakes, and we teach how to the brakes work and how we fix them, and we make sure the students know by doing the practice. They same thing with transmissions. The students learn how the transmission works internally, and then after that, well, they pull the transmission out of the car, the transmission that needs to be serviced or repaired. Then they go through all the pieces in there, the assemblies, and they find a problem. They write it down. We always do a repair order for reference, and also is the law. We gotta have those on file. And after that, the students learn how the transmission works by the theory, and then by the practice, they know how to fix it. Because the whole idea. We don't do body work. That is something that we leave for Salisbury College. They have a department for that, but we do all the other repairs that is needed. Electricals, and if you know, obviously starting with batteries, how they work and operate, alternators, starters, and so on. And in depth, there is a lot to learn in electrical. Also, engine repair. We do the whole engine. We pull the engine out of the car. We disassemble the engine completely, and then we measure all the pieces in there, like pistons, rods, and bearings, and crankshaft, and so on and so on. And then the student put it all together, and that's the whole idea. You get out of here, you to go to a shop or dealer, and you get hired there. They may not push you right away as a type A mechanic, because in automotive they have those letters of distinction. A mechanic will be an experienced, very good mechanic. A mechanic has a lot of experience. It has a lot of certificates, master ASE most likely. Some of those have even small licenses. So they know everything about the car, and they have been doing that for years. So they classify as Class A mechanic. And then there is a Class B mechanic. I guess I said type A. No, it means class. Sorry, I gotta make sure that this is done properly. So Class B mechanic will be with a lot of years of experience, some certificates, including an AA, maybe an automotive, or full certificate in automotive. And then that mechanic will be in charge of maybe doing brakes, alignments, any electrical work, but still doesn't have all the knowledge that a very, very experienced mechanic has, maybe 10 plus years of experience. But somewhat in there, that B mechanic is reliable. The boss can give a ticket that has a repair, with a repair order, and that mechanic will go ahead and work, by himself. He doesn't need a lot of help from others. But there is another class of mechanic called C, and usually C and D mechanics are the ones that come out from the schools, either college or any specific training schools, and those mechanics will be hired by dealers or shops, and then they will get more training there after they get hired. But they have a lot of knowledge. They know how to install tires, how to repair tires, how to check brakes and repair brakes, and so on. But they're not as good as B or A mechanics at that point.
Well, when you look at your program and you're talking about all the different things that these students get the experience in your program to do, you have cars that are constantly updating. New technology is showing up in cars every single year. How does your program make sure that you stay up to date with that?
What we do is we look at the new equipment that we use to diagnose those vehicles, because you have to understand there is evolution. Older vehicle needed very simple equipment, but the newer one will need the ones that has to deal with feedback, communications, and obviously you need to know what the computer is doing or thinking, and we need to be able to read, and also we need to send a symbol or an input so the computer can tell us if anything is left in there, because the computer in the car is a very smart piece of equipment that will collect data, and later a smart mechanic, that's when the B or A mechanic comes in, knows how to read and figure out the faults that have been creating throughout the failures, because there are so many steps. And so we get new equipment all the time, and we're looking for updating our equipment.
Well, you mentioned the computers, and obviously with the coming of the age of electronics and computers and having different dashboards in cars now, are you finding that there's a lot more to do with cars electronically that you have to teach or learn yourself rather than as much the mechanics?
Yes, the electronic part is what the students are really having trouble to understand, because we have the cars with can type of systems that if you can put a light bulbs, for example, that fail, and you go to AutoZone, just to name a place, and but you see one that has a wattage that is about the same, and but fits exactly on the socket of that tail light, and but then because the CAN programs, it means Central Area Network, is using a frequency for that light bulb, but the light bulb has a wattage that is slightly off the proper number, and that can create a problem, because the frequency is not meeting that light bulb, or is drawing too much of that current or amperage, and then you end up having another problem in another system. It could be the horn, could be other system that could be affected. So all the things that comes in play when it comes to electronics, and the student has to be aware of that. And obviously, that's why we need the equipment, the updated equipment. Without those new equipments, you're not a mechanic if you don't have the right equipment, even if you know how to do things, but you need to have the equipment available for you.
I mean, you can cook an egg in the driveway, but it's not the right way to do it.
Yeah.
When you look at automotive, and I walk by there all the time because I'm at the football field a lot, so I have to walk by automotive. You look at the courtyard that you guys have to be able to have different equipment, maybe work on some cars. When you see the space that automotive has to work with, what do you tell students who first look, oh my gosh, this is an actual hands-on experience rather than learning from a book?
Well, that's one of the reasons it's going to become a little harder than ever to work at home on your own cars, because all those vehicles are requiring a smarter person, or more trained person. So the area at the home is not going to be good enough, to have borrow any equipment. For example, you have to bring it to a shop. That's how they figure that most of vehicles are going to be fixed in shops or dealers instead of home. So when it comes to automotive, it becomes like something that for sure you're not going to be out of work. And a lot of times they have that fear that you're going to lose a job. Maybe you've been there for 5 years, and you say, oh my God, what about if we have a problem because they're going to ship my jobs to other place. It happens a lot in other areas. But in automotive, you're going to be there set. Once you learn, And you will appreciate this, that you have a steady job. You know you can plan. I think one thing I tell the students, hey, there are so many other jobs that you can plan and everything, but for sure, automotive is one of those that it goes with you. And also, anywhere you go, you'll find a job.
Right.
And you go to Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, and they say, "Hey, you wanna stay here? We got a job for you." And so pretty much you've been asked to join those companies. Most of the time, they come to your dealer. When I gained so much experience, became Class A mechanic. I have friends from all the dealers coming to my dealer and say, "Hey, Vic, hey, why don't you come to my place? We need you there," because they know it. They're looking for good mechanics, and that's what you get. This I tell the students, hey guys, this is the place where you're gonna start, but you're gonna be wanted for good, in a good way. So that's the way I explain it.
Now, some being here in Southern California, very diverse. You have a lot of different ethnicities and a lot of people who grew up learning and speaking in Spanish rather than in English. A lot of those people, they like to get into mechanics, or not get into mechanics, but they like to get into automotive. My family included. They love their automotive stuff, but they learn better in Spanish. Is there an opportunity in automotive for instructors to also deal with those people who may have those different types of needs?
Unfortunately, we don't have a class in automotive. We used to have one through the continuum of education at Cypress. I did that class 4 years on Saturdays. I had a Spanish automotive. But when I got my full time here at Fullerton, that class pretty much ended because they couldn't replace it. What we do here is the students, let's say I have a student who speaks very little English, but he's interested. What I do is I make team groups, and the other instructors do the same, and we speak we do teach the class in English. It has to be done in English when we are inside the class.
Right.
But when we go outside, we tell him, you know what, if this is new students who wants to learn automotive, but his English slow, anyone speak Spanish, so when I say anything in English, I do speak Spanish, but I try to have somebody who can translate or help out in a one-to-one basis, and that's how we get the student going. And I've been lucky with some students who said, I don't speak English, I don't see how I can take your class. And I say, come down, we'll help you.
Right.
And one of my ex-students owns a mobile mechanic, and he always called me like not really always, but once in a while, I would say. And he said, Mr. Miranda, thank you for the help you gave me. Now I own my own shop. It's a mobile mechanic deal, but he's in Victorville, and he's making money. He has his own shop. He has his own home, and something that he wouldn't have had it if he never learned automotive, because now he owns a shop.
Yeah.
It's on wheels, and in addition to others I know, but that's how it works, and we make it work here in Fullerton. And I really like to one day have a class in automotive, so the students can start there and learn how everything works in in the Spanish, and then they can jump in English, and it will be easy for them to understand the other terms, because you have to write repair orders and in English most of the time. Most shops don't like anything in Spanish because it's a legal document. So
Right.
still you gotta learn some English. But automotive, for fixing cars, you don't need to speak just English. You can do it in any language. The car doesn't care. But
Well, if you could promo your automotive department in Spanish to a person who may be watching online, what would
Yes.
you say? And you can do it in Spanish if you like.
yeah, I'll be happy to. Probably I haven't tried here for sure. Like to put it on paper and try to submit that to go through. But we can always. I think it will be a plus for us. It's something that you just inspiring me because I haven't been asked. I always thought, it would be nice, but I don't put it on paper.
Hmm.
And maybe that could be something that I should start thinking about it.
There you
Yeah,
go. You
yeah.
heard it here
All
on
right.
90.1 KBPK. I'm with Mr. Miranda, one of the coordinators for the automotive department. We'd like to thank him for joining us on the air. If you would like to check out the automotive department, go ahead and contact him. Go ahead and contact the automotive department here at Fullerton College. A lot of classes that you can take that give you hands-on instruction. And like you heard it from Mr. Miranda himself, it leads to jobs. It leads to possibly owning your own shop and making money through the industry. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye. There you go.
So once again, that was Mr. Miranda through Automotive. We'll be right back here on 90.1 KBPK.
Welcome back here to 90.1 KBPK. I'm on the line right now with Joseph Palenko, who is now the head of the radio department from a technical point of view here on 90.1 KBPK. And we talked a little about the radio program. You're somebody who went through the radio program. I call it new media because we do a lot like we are today doing video on here. And Joseph, the biggest question when you look at this whole program and what it's got to offer and what it's offered through the years, that it's changed since you came through the program. I mean, it used to be all online with radio. Now we've added video to it. So, I mean, and you're now on the technical side of it. Looking at the future of this program, what's the future hold for the radio/new media department here at Fullerton College?
That's a big question. At Fullerton College, at least, I think it's embracing podcasts, embracing online streaming, video streaming, things that are being used in the industry to take radio beyond the terrestrial signal, get it online and off of just traditional radio waves.
So, I mean, you talk about traditional radio and you talk about terrestrial radio, which will probably always exist.
Yeah.
To what level, who knows? That all has to do with money. But we have tended to go to more online streaming. The traditional radio stations have gone to online streaming, and then a multitude of podcasts have come on. And you're a youngster compared to me. So, I mean, and I'm serious on this, from a personal point of view, I know how many podcasts my son listens to, my daughter-in-law listens to, and my son's friend Peter, who listens to 192 podcasts. He was telling us that you're somebody who works in the industry. I mean, is this really the future of communication for the young people, 30 and under like yourself?
I think podcasting is, if it isn't that, it's the new version of talk radio. I think the new version is going into live streaming, and a lot of, with people 30 and under, it's streaming on Twitch, and it's streaming on YouTube, and it's all mostly gaming centric, and it's that feeling of watching somebody play a game or do something and have that, well, come on guys, let's do this, and they're being very chummy and friendly. And it captures that feeling of a generation, I think, that engages less socially and makes them feel like they're getting a social interaction by watching somebody on a screen.
So, in other words, it's more worldwide communication
I think so.
than anything else where we look at the day-to-day communication. But when you talk about the word radio, as we would say what the definition is, and we talk about what's going on compared today, then is terrestrial radio slowly going away, slowly disappearing, or will terrestrial radio, even on the mom and pop level, exist for many years to come?
I think it's going to exist mostly with, for reasons of FCC and emergency alerts. It's going to be around, if anything else, for those reasons. On the big mega corporation levels, you have a lot of companies that own a lot of stations, and if some of those go south, what happens to all of that, and who has the money to put, like you said, it's money centric. So who is going to reinvest in the money? Who's going to be the next person outside of Clear Channel? It's going to build the next $200 million radio station facility. I think it's going to be mom and pop stations that are probably going to, as we see the mega corporations maybe phase out of terrestrial radio, that pick up the slack.
So then when we think about that, then are we looking at young people that need to really be more entrepreneurs than in the old days when we look at radio? Radio days, in the old days, you became a personality. Yeah, you created your own following. Maybe you were one of the top guys out there. You end up being like Ryan Seacrest, who did create himself, and then took some of the creation he made and rolled it over into multimillionaires. I'm not going to say Ryan Seacrest was an entrepreneur. I think Ryan Seacrest was a go-getter. But I think now with the way you're talking, are we looking at the entrepreneurs now then when we look at new media?
I think we are. I think we're looking at self-starters. It's about similar to what Ryan Seacrest did. You build a brand and you expand on it, whether it be podcasting, live streaming, or whatever you're doing. And I think it's being a go-getter like him, and it's getting out and doing it. But I don't think there are the roadblocks that were there before about barriers to entry, because anybody can get some equipment and start making a thing, which is a big thing that at KBPK and at Sportsnet, you guys, I think, embody that mentality of, you want to do the thing, go do the thing. And I think that's what a lot of kids are realizing, and maybe some need to still, that just go make the thing. If it takes off, it takes off. If it doesn't, try again, or keep doing it, or hone the craft.
But things have to be interesting. I mean, when we look at what we're doing, be it the conversations I had with architecture, you have to have an interesting conversation. When 30 Minutes had a conversation with the auto department, it had to be interesting. When we talked to journalism and sort of treaded on racism, it's got to be interesting. If it's not an interesting topic, it's going to go away. I mean, I look at modern day music, and I'm going to bring up music because you program, Ryan programs, Ed Ford has talked about programming in music. I'm sorry, there was a time that I would listen to music on the radio all the time. I don't do that anymore because there's not that, for me, there's not that head-throbbing sound that, wow, it's so-and-so. I've got to listen to them. You know, so it's like with the podcast. If there's not that thing I've got to listen to, I'm not going to listen to it. I mean, that's the downside about when you say about doing all this stuff. Yeah, I can be a banjo player, but if there's 4,000 of us, we're going to listen to banjo player number one and maybe not the other 3,999.
And I think you're seeing followings aren't as big as they used to, because so many people can go and do so many things, and you can get, like you said, 5 banjo players, and they're all doing a similar thing. But I think it comes down to be the standout banjo player. You need to hone your craft, and you need to have maybe a different point of view or a different way to present it. And I think that's how the people with new media or online media or streaming, the ones that are successful, do it. Like the gentleman from Twitch, Ninja. I don't know if you heard about this. Biggest streamer on Twitch. A week or so ago, much smaller platform gave him a bunch of money and said, come stream with us. Because his personality, because the way he's honed his craft, because the way he interacts with an audience. They wanted that brand on their smaller platform so they can grow it and compete with a larger platform. So I think honing the craft and personality is important. I think you can have the 1,000 people that do game streaming or playing the banjo, but you just need that unique angle to be the person that rises to the top. Kind of like how it always was, but it's just so many more people can go do it now.
So you talk about unique angles. That's one of the things we have here at Fullerton College. When you listen to 90.1 KBPK, 30 Minutes is now on the air with us. So he's come along. So 30 Minutes, well, you're back again. You've got about that much time to talk. 30 Minutes is on the air with Joseph. I'm the Buddha of Babel. Title IX's behind the camera. The Queen, Gabby Nalen, is sitting in the throne behind all of us, taking care of what we've got going on here. And, of course, 30 Minutes, when you look at it, you look at KBPK and what it's got to offer here. You know, we talked about radio, and we talked about it. You know, I think terrestrial radio is, and the bands that are out there and what it's got to offer, doesn't really offer anything for me anymore. An old guy. I go back to Wolfman Jack, baby. Wolfman Jack. Oh, and all the bands that came along, indie bands that used to be on radio and everything else. Young ladies taking all our paraphernalia here from KBPK. She ought to come and join the classes, too. We have an absolute ball while we're on the air here at KBPK. The lead instructor, Mr. Corey Nalen, behind the camera. But it's changed. The music has changed. What grabs me on radio? What grabs you guys as youngsters? Because there's nothing there for me. I got to be truthful. That's why radio's going away. I got no reason to turn it on.
That's a fair point. Me, musically, I look for, again, it goes back to somebody with a unique voice or a unique angle. And some of the bands that I listen to are bands that I enjoy the things they have to say. And maybe it's a little more far-reaching than just playing music. And most often it talks about issues of people, or one of my favorite bands I flow back and forth to has a lot more of a political slant to them. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate a lot of people can do that, but I appreciate what they do is they put their money where their mouth is and where they are located. They actually went and took time off and started helping after school programs to bring music back into classrooms, because that's what everybody was preaching for a while. But a lot of the big artists weren't doing anything about it. And you have the smaller fringing on an indie group, and they did it. And I give them a lot of points for that, and I enjoy the things they have to say.
I mean, Ron, I'm going to throw it at you, too, because you're the youngest of us three here. I mean, we got old,
Really old.
creeping on middle age. We got youngster. Then we got Morgan Freeman behind you. That's we're talking about old people, and as we have somebody comes up, Morgan's going to come up to the table. But tell me, what do you like about music, and what's it do for you?
Well, I mean, when I listen to music, I have a specific number of bands and that I listen to. What I think radio has really done is tailored itself towards young people. And when you mention there's not much for you and your age group, it's true. They're trying to more emphasize the younger person, the streamer, the person who only wants to listen to their style of music. You know, back before you had things like Spotify, things like TuneIn, things like Pandora, you had to listen to the radio, and you listened to a station that had the genre of music that you liked, or you bought a CD. If you liked a band that much, you bought an album. However, now you can go on a place like Spotify and pay, if you're a student, a certain amount a month, or if you're an instructor, whatever it is, you can go there and you pay for the specific music that you want. You get all the music, but then you can say, I only want to listen to this band and this band and this band. And you know what? I don't even want to listen to their first albums. I just want to listen to their third and fourth albums. So I think that when you look at my age group, Joseph's age group, that's what you're seeing from radio, is that it's getting more and more tailored and specific to just what the individual's wants and needs are. Now, when you talk about earlier, what do I see in radio and what do I like in radio? I mean, you guys know I'm a big sports guy. So I'm still going to listen to terrestrial radio because my favorite sports teams, a lot of them are here in the area, in Los Angeles, Anaheim, Orange County. So I still listen to terrestrial radio. However, for the most part in our age group, it's now becoming more of a streaming attitude than actually listening to a physical radio.
Yeah, but in my day when we grew up, we had the hard rock stations. We had the soul stations. We had the oldie stations. I mean, let me throw one out there. K-Earth, you needed to go back. It was 50s. Then it was 60s. Then it was 70s. Now you go back to the 80s. They were out there. You had your genre. We've talked about programming because I said that's one of the things that Joseph and you do over at 90.1 KBPK. Programming set that style. That's why you listen to that radio station. Now you've got radio stations that, it's Jill Jack FM that you listen to, that it's animation, that there's no things. Wolfman Jack, you used to have the late night programs that would play those indie bands in my day. You did have somebody like Casey Pakowski that had a Beatles program. So if you were a Beatles freak, you could listen to Casey Patowski's and his Beatles show and hear everything the Beatles played. There was a time radio had that. Then your era came along and you guys said, well, I think radio changed for the worst because everybody wanted to say, oh, well, I want to listen to track 3, but I don't want to listen to track 4, 5, and 6 because that's what the record companies wanted you to listen to.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. I think it also comes down to
we're getting there.
I think it comes to big business getting their into it, right? And I think it comes to them realizing all these kids are doing this, and they only want to listen to track 3 on repeat. So let's all change the formats of our stations, which is why we have so many stations in our market in LA that are top 40 or hot AC, because they're all trying to hit that poppy vibe. You really don't have rock or alternative or indie or hard rock. You even have KLOS, which used to be kind of oldies, or way back in the day it was album-oriented rock, to drop some shop talk, I guess. And I turned it on a couple weeks ago and they were playing Blink-182, which is what K-Rock's playing. but it's because they're considering Blink-182 to start being oldies, just like you're saying K-Earth bumps the decades up as time moves on. And aside from having more owners and less people owning a majority of the stations, I don't know how we fix the problem. Because I think that's what it is. It's what's commercially successful.
You also have to look at, when you talk about commercially successful, how the charts changed. Because it used to be that a place like Billboard would look at an album as a whole, and that would be the sale. So when you looked at like the Beatles or Led Zeppelin or the Rolling Stones, you would see X amount of albums that were sold. However, now you're getting singles that are sold as albums. So they changed that classification, so it also emphasizes that poppy sort of vibe, because people look and they say, okay, well, what's the #1 selling album of all time? Well, now it's a Justin Bieber album. However, you click on that album, you look at it, and it's one track. It's not an actual physical album.
Man, wait a minute. We had
popular.
Casey Kasem back in our day.
Right.
Like Casey Kasem used to play the Hot 100, and you got that song off that album. You didn't get the whole album. You got that song off that album,
Yeah.
and that was the 100. And if you liked that song, you bought that album that
You
went
had to
with
buy-
it.
You bought
back
that
in the day,
album.
You had to buy the whole album.
But the thing is, let's be realistic. When we look at today's economy, the people that drive today's economy aren't you two. I got a 22-year-old sitting there, and I got a 30-year-old sitting there. The guys that drive the economy are the guys that when I go listen to music to them, the man like Corey Nalen, first of all, nobody plays the type of music he grew up with. So Corey's got to go back and buy the album of the old days. Those aren't singles. The stuff that he grew up with, be it the hip-hop of his generation, and he'll buy that. He doesn't do and buy the candy bubble gum songs that you guys buy today, one song at a time. He buys the albums from the old days, and he is the economy that drives the music industry. And so the industry in terrestrial radio has destroyed itself because they have changed the programming away from those true music people to you guys that want to buy a single slice of cheese
No, but
instead
see,
of a whole pound.
Here's why Mark's wrong, Corey. You look at what's changing the industry. He keeps, I just want to make sure that you're included on this. You look at what's, quote, driving the industry. That's what Mark keeps talking about, changing the industry. If Mr. Morgan Freeman behind us was the guy who was financing the whole thing, then they would be tailoring it to his needs. However, because it's changing towards younger people, it's showing that it's actually the younger generation of streamers and Spotifyers and Pandora people. That's what's changing the industry. That's why you're seeing all this pop and stuff, because they're the ones who are starting to finance
So
the
what
industry.
major record companies have gone away if it's changed?
Capital One?
You
Or
know?
not Capital One.
Capital.
Records?
Capital One. That credit card may go away one of these days, too. They have been absorbed, and they're in there, and the record companies are still there, and more independent record companies are out there. That's why indies are big in the world of radio. You guys have decreased the amount of music that's out there, not increased it. On our time, in our days, you could hear 4 or 5 hit songs from one album. Now you've got people that are producing one song at a time.
No, but
and
see, Mark,
that's the
Mark,
difference.
you
Realize,
see-
let's go back. Great bands are known for lasting through lifetimes. None of your young people are lasting through lifetimes. You've got no generational bands like the Stones that will last forever. You've got no generational bands like Chicago that will go on forever. You've got those bands. Where are yours? If they last 2 years, they're hits, and after 2 years, if Ed Ford were here and standing next to Corey Nalen, he'd start hitting off one-hit wonders from your generation. And
Well,
that's
see,
what's your
here-
generation, and that's what's wrong with radio today. It
There's
needs
two
to go back
things-
to the old
There's
ways.
two things about that, Mark. You go back to what you were talking about, how now there are artists who only have one hits on their entire album. That's not true. Because you look at, yes, Led Zeppelin 3.
What, you got a bullpen coach behind you?
Essentially. He's my corner man back there. Essentially, you look at like Led Zeppelin 3, 4 to 5 legendary hits. But now I'm not defending that. Now, I'm not defending the current artists of the time like Ariana Grande or Justin Bieber, but they do have
Whose songs were stolen.
but they do have 4 to 5 hits per album when they actually bring in a full-length album out, they're getting 4 to 5 hits. So that's not true. They are getting the same amount of hits. Now, when you talk about lasting impact, that's different. We still do have artists who have a lasting impact. You look at Jay-Z, he started his career in the late 80s, early 90s. He's
Don't
still
go
around,
there.
and he's still charting.
Don't go
You
to
look at-
Jay-Z.
Oh, I will, because Corey behind me also mentioned Kanye West, Beyonce, that entire group. They all are still charting. You look at another band that just ended up bringing out another album in 2016, A Tribe Called Quest. They're supposedly from the mid to early 80s, but yet they're still charting in recent rap and hip-hop charts. We still have artists who are continuing to leave their legacy. It's just a different time.
And go ahead, Joseph.
I want to say,
Joseph got to pipe in here because he
I
feels
do.
like he's getting
I do.
trampled on.
So, I think there's not less. I think there's more. And I think breaking through the noise is harder now. And I think because there's so much, everything's more disposable, which is why things don't last as long. If there's so much being generated, so much content, so much music constantly out there, is it worth what it used to be worth when there was less?
Great music lasts. So when you say there's too much and so it goes away because there's more and more and more and more. Great music lasts. Great music. If we had somebody from the music department on here, which we didn't have today, and we were to talk about music, they would tell you great music doesn't fade away. Great music always stays. So if I brought on Corey and a couple of his friends and we talked hip-hop, not me, them, talked hip-hop, they would talk about songs that lasted forever, and real hip-hop people would go, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Because songs that some of us never heard still would exist in their mind because great music doesn't fade away. Great music always goes. It doesn't matter how much great you throw out there. Great is great. Fly by night is fly by night. One hit wonders is one hit wonders.
And I hate I'm saying this, but wouldn't you
Oh.
say from the 90s, wouldn't you say the Backstreet Boys are still relevant and they've lasted, and they're from that generation that you're saying people don't last?
They're resurrecting. I'm not going to say they lasted. Lasted isn't going away and then popping up 5 years later because they need to make money and everybody goes, ooh, look who's back. The Backstreet Boys. How exciting. That's coming back for a one time. Lasting is lasting. You don't go away. Just because you come back and everybody gets excited for a second, please. You know who's texting me? I think that's Ed Ford trying to get through in my phone if
No,
he's
but
listening
see,
to this.
Here's the deal as well, Joseph. He mentioned how now all of a sudden there's more, and back then in his time there was fewer music, but it was greater. It lasted longer. It had a bigger effect. That's not true because you look at bands like Kiss. How many albums did they have? 12 studio albums. You look at another band like Iron Maiden, if you want to go heavy metal. They had 15 studio albums. Would you consider them to be great? Their lasting effect continues. They're still selling out shows. They're still charting on
You
heavy
know,
metal.
if I go to an
and they
arena
had
that's got
15
50 people and sell it out, don't tell me, oh, they're still selling out shows.
No,
I can
Iron
take
Maiden just sold out Staples Center. They just sold
All
out
right, all right,
the
let's-
big house in Michigan.
let's
That
talk-
Staples Center was roped off, I
talk
hate
about
to
a
tell
group.
you.
A group or a person that's produced more albums than probably all those groups that Ryan mentioned. What about the Boss for lasting
That's
impact?
true.
What
Yeah.
about it?
The Boss. I'm just saying. I'm talking you, right? So we're saying lasting impacts and being relevant.
Well, we're going to talk about the boss. You talk about his group. Has he ever walked away and done anything by himself? No,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a
he
total.
has. He went solo for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. That's the answer. He went solo for a little bit
It
and then
was-
found out it didn't really work out that well and got the band back together to really make money.
But where's the problem in that? Money drives the industry.
What? Oh, you know what?
I don't know why
With-
I have the headsets on.
With or without the band, I think he's still one of the best songwriters of his generation, at least.
You know, the puppet master behind Ryan is just, 30. Yeah, you're only 30 minutes. That's why you need him to
He
fill it more.
started as the corner man
Whoa.
and then started walking into the ring and moving my arms.
You know, this is what you get on 90.1 KBPK. A little bit of this because, guys, as you look around us, this day is starting to wrap up. We could stay out here for the next 4 hours, continue this, especially 30 minutes, which is actually 2.5 hours down all the way. That's Ryan Osborne, Joseph Palenko, Corey. Let me get my words in. I just don't want to go on the air nailing behind Ryan Osborne back there. This is what we are at 90.1. Be it music, which is, guys, will bring you music all year long on 90.1 KBPK. Make sure you listen to that. We'll be back streaming online soon, so you'll get that coming later. Sports on KBPK. We've got our sister station, sports@usa.net, that's going to be bringing you some sports along the way. So we will have a multitude. And of course, then you look at Joseph and what he talked about with the program. We've got iPods around the corner. We've got programs here at Fullerton College that have come up to these two young men and want you to go over. Day of the Dead is already scheduled here on 90.1 KBPK. Plus, who knows? We know architecture wants us over there. Human services wants us over there. And you know what? We never did get Jay Seidel from journalism over here on the air before we went away, but Jay will always have us involved. This is what you get if you join the radio program here at 90.1 KBPK. Guys, I just wanted to get that in so people know why they listen to us going back together. Can you do it at home if you want to be part of this program? Yeah, you can, doing exactly what we did. Well, guys, are we sticking around? Are we going away? What should we do for a while?
Morgan Freeman says it's time to go.
He's giving us the hook.
What time is it?
51. Our
So
event-
Yeah.
this wraps up in 9 minutes.
yeah.
So let us thank journalism for being on the air with us. We want to thank those, Alan from over at Architecture, which was fun. Once again, we're an international booth as the Japanese beetle lands on Joseph this time going on. We've had a great time for everybody who has come on the air with us today. Thank you very much. It's been our pleasure to promote your programs out here. We are a community college. And, hey, let me get it out right now. If you got nothing to do, you're sitting at home, you're my age, saying, I'd love to learn how to be, no better place to go than a community college in your neighborhood. That's right. Take it for fun. Finish off that degree. Find a new career. This is where you start at. Be it you want to be the guy driving the truck or flying the drone, you want to be the one that's playing in the band, hey, maybe you think you could call Community College Volleyball on 90.1. No better place to go than here. Guys, I've had an absolute ball because what did I get to do? I got to talk all day. That's my strong suit. For Gabby Nayland, for Corey Nayland, head of the 145 sports class, my two counterparts, Ryan, Joseph. You ever need to walk in, the door is always open by those two. For Peg Berger, for Ken Ardeen, for everybody involved, for Martha, who's sitting down the way, who put this whole thing together today. Where she's at now, she's roaming around. One thing, it has been an absolute ball. Guys, I'm going to let you wrap it up. I'm going to get out of your way. Since you run the radio station, you get to close us out before we leave in 9 minutes.
Oh, no pressure.
And really quickly, we do want to thank journalism, architecture, student services who also came over and talked to Mark and I. We want to thank Vic Miranda of Automotive as well for coming over and having a chat with us. Mark and Joseph, you know, you look at the way that KBPK is going to be up on the air coming up this fall. We've got a lot of classes,
Yep.
a lot of broadcasts scheduled, so nobody's going to be just sitting idly by this entire fall semester.
Exactly. We even had some people stop by. Weren't on the camera. We had ethnic studies department head come over here and talk to us. That's how we arranged Day of the Dead that Mark spoke about. So a lot of exciting things coming up in the semester. A lot of full classes, I hope, a lot of eager students. And we'll be back doing more things as the semester goes on.
Go ahead and check out the KBPK Instagram, 90.1 KBPK, and also the Facebook page as well, and you can get brand new updates that we're going to have, classes that you can take in addition to upcoming broadcasts that are going to be live here on the air as well.
Yeah, search us on Facebook, give us a like for all following us and keeping up with everything going on.
So once again, for Mark Pavlovich, Corey Nayland, Gabby Nayland, Joseph Pavlenko, I'm Ryan Osborne, thanking you for being here with us at the 2019 Fullerton College Smart Start.